For the past few days, you've all been collecting information for your water project. Instead of displaying the information in a Google slideshow, we're going to be creating infographics to show what the data is that you've collected. So let's take a look at what actually an infographic is. So an infographic, if you look over to the right on this screen, is a visual representation of information or data. There's also lots of times silhouettes or simplistic supporting graphics used, like in this image right here where you see the image of the male and the female. And below it says who is attending Curtis Middle School. Just by looking at these images, I can see that 51% are male that attend Curtis and 49% are female. Also, there's a very strategic use of fonts, size, and color when creating your infographic. So why infographics work? Why did we decide that we want you to use an infographic instead of a Google slide presentation? Well, 90% of information is visually transmitted to the brain. Half the brain is dedicated to visual functioning. 65% of the population are visual learners. Visual information is processed simultaneously by the brain. Text is processed sequentially by the brain. Visual information is processed 60,000 times faster than text. Only 20% of what is read is remembered. Wait, how many facts were just in that last slide? Can anyone name more than one fact? Was that previous slide even memorable? Not for me, definitely. I'm definitely a visual learner. And when I look back at that last slide, I just see lots of text. Even though it is in bulleted format, it's a lot of information, no graphics, and a lot for the brain to process. So let's take a look at an infographic. Here is an infographic that's explaining the same information from that bulleted slide. This is showing 90% of that information transmitted to the brain is visual. So you can see that this circle graph is showing 90%, and you can see the eye that's representing the visual. Also, you can see in this brain diagram, you can see that it says half of the brain is dedicated to visual function. Also, an image is pointing to the eyes that says the eyes are the physical extension of the brain. And down below, we have an image that's representing 65% of the population being visual learners. So when looking back at that original slide with lots of text, I can now look at the infographic which has visual representation of that text. Here's another part of the infographic. Images are processed simultaneously. So you can see the eye going into the image, which goes into the brain. And here again, it's showing the text is processed sequentially. So you can see the eye, picture of a black bird sitting in a tree. The bird is looking to the left. The leaves of the tree are yellow, orange, and red, and it's autumn. So that you can see that this is representing what people remember versus what they've read. So let's take a look at what it means to storytell with infographics. Infographics may not be the solution to everything, but as you saw in that video, lots of people have limited amounts of time and lots of information that they want to process. So by using an infographic, we're providing them with charts, statistics, images, and things that are going to trigger in their memories to retain the information longer. Let's take a look at a real example of an infographic. This infographic is about our future demands on STEM, STEM standing for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Looking at this image here of the suitcase, I can see that it's 80% filled. So it's representing 80% of jobs in the next decade that will require technology skills. Instead of reading a paragraph or a bulleted list, I'm able to look at that image from the infographic and gain an understanding of what the 80% is representing. Scrolling down a little further, I can look at some of the positive aspects of STEM learning in early education. Looking at the silhouette here, it says 4 and 5 STEM college students made the decision to study STEM in high school or earlier. So by seeing those 5 silhouettes, I can see that 4 out of the 5 of them are shaded in. Another example over here is 2 graphs, one showing that 49% of men and 64% of women feel that their K-12 education prepared them well for STEM. And again, as you scroll down, you can see small amounts of text, lots of graphs, lots of graphics, and many diagrams to represent different statistics. So now that you've seen what infographics are all about, it's your turn to start building your infographic for your water project information display. You're going to be creating an infographic that will be displayed for the gallery walk, where all of your classmates will be walking around to learn about your water situation. So make sure that when you're including information, it's easy to understand, that it's not a lot of text, so that when people have only a short amount of time to visit your station, they're able to gain the information that they need for their notes. Have fun!